Hello, welcome to my good morning, my good life meditation for today, the 12th day of June 2025. My name is Kurt, and this is an exercise that I do every day around this time to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined on my book, Going Alone. I also use the time to think about the last 24 hours and how I did with any challenges or opportunities that I met. I go over the objectives of my creed, and I prepare myself for the day. First, welcome to new subscribers to the channel, and a big thank you to new channel members. A quick note that I do talk about sensitive subjects in this video. Every day I talk about my own planning for death, just a heads up on that. Also, this is not a video about Japan. This is my personal diary and journal. So it's all about me. Just like if you were looking over consider like you're looking over my shoulder as I write Dear Diary. So that's the case. Japan is happening incidentally all around me. More about that in just a second. I will divert for a second to talk a little bit about Japan in a second. I finally, a big thank you to my YouTube for watching my video. And like I said before, my thanks to my YouTube members. I have a couple of new members to the channel, which is a membership that's kind of like Patreon, but for YouTube, and it's regular support. Really appreciate such people. Thank you. And then, of course, my supporters on Patreon. Thank you. You fuel my adventures. I know which have been few since in the last couple of months, last month or so. And again, as I've said, last couple of days, but it's worth repeating, especially for those who support me. My adventures have been few because I'm very busy ramping up my business, and I'm hesitant to drive anywhere until I get my Japanese driver's license, and all the pieces are in place for that. Just waiting for, we're working diligently on that. That's our number one priority right now. That and ramping up my business. So I promised that I'd diverge a little bit from the talk about myself to talk about a little bit about where I am. So preamble to that. I'm finding an interesting way to do these videos. And first of all, tagging it to a particular time isn't going to work, because I take this long morning hike every morning. It's about a 2 mile, maybe a 3 kilometer hike every morning. There's a lot of places I can go in the area, and the ranges, the options to me are phenomenal. Countryside, city, all kinds of stuff. And what I've decided to do is to, instead of timing it to a particular time, the start of this video, which I do every morning, I'll time it to opportunity, namely 5G connectivity. Looking for a spot in the course of my long walk where I have good 5G solid connection, where I can then make this connection like I'm having right now. I'm in a 5G spot right now, and which incidentally will share with you something new and interesting. So to that point, where am I? I'm in a bus stop. I'm sitting on the bench at a bus stop, but I can talk freely and as loud as I want, because this is not just any bus stop. This is the Shizuoka Performing Arts Park bus stop, where there is nobody. It's all closed. Well, there's a security guard down in the building down there. I actually saw his head. But this is the bus stop, and we've got good 5G connectivity, which shouldn't surprise us, because the infrastructure of this city is set up so that people in the city, main activity areas like this should be able to have their connection. And I'm here. This is where the security guard is. It actually says security guard resting place. And then I came all the way. This is the road that comes up from where I live, and then I meandered up here. That's good that it's dashed. It's really half a road, really. You can't really go there. So that's where I am. You can see the barriers are still up, so no cars can come in, etc., etc. So that's the plan. Find those 5G spots. What in the world is that? That's strange. All right, so let's get into it. Back on track. What I'm going to do now are 3 things in the following order. First, I'll go over yesterday, review yesterday, in terms of the quality of the day and how I did with the sticky bits, where I succeeded and where I failed, how I could do more of the successes and reduce the failures in the future. Part 2 is that I'll go over the creed, and then part 3 is that I'll talk about the coming day. So yesterday, was there anything of note? Yeah, I'd say there was. I'm very gun shy. I've had one since coming back to Japan. I'm 6 months back. I've had one minor traffic accident. I backed into a fence, damaged our car, damaged the fence, and I got pulled over by the police for a traffic infraction. And I've really had a hard time getting back on my feet as a driver here. Move over here. I'm having a hard time driving, and I'm aware that I'm vulnerable, and I'm a little bit afraid, especially since I'm operating with an international driver's license. I don't want to drive unless I have to. So when I do drive, I'm anxious. So what I'm looking for is moments where in the day yesterday, I found myself in a situation where I need to utilize my principles. I have 35 principles in my creed to help me to achieve the objectives. There are 8 objectives in my creed. And yesterday's driving was one such case where I realized that hashtag limits, I had a limit to my capabilities. I'm dangerous right now because I'm having a hard time acclimating to driving in Japan. So I then utilized hashtag reason to come up with a plan, which is basically to settle the radio at a moderate level, and to not engage in small talk with my wife while we were driving. I was driving. I know you're probably saying, well, why don't you just let your wife drive? She doesn't like to drive. She's one of those women that likes to have me drive. I don't know if it's a women thing, but she doesn't. And so that her discomfort with driving outweighed my discomfort for driving, so I drove. So, that worked. That worked really well. That heightened my attention to the road and my due diligence in planning operations. I'm a licensed driving instructor in California. I have been for 3 decades. I've taught hundreds and hundreds of people to drive. And one of the things I would teach my students is to plan out your interactions with the intersections. Look ahead at what's happening, see what's coming up, look 2 signals down, see what's happening down there, keep awareness of what's going on. We call it smog. Signal, mirror, over the shoulder, go. Being aware at the 360 degrees as much as possible. So I was utilizing my own lessons to that effect yesterday as we were driving, and it worked really well. I drove well when I drove very slow. Not, 75-year-old slow. That's coming. Give me another decade. I see it. I see the writing on the wall. I know why the old people drive slow. It's the only way, so it's as safe as they can go. So that was an example of encountering a limit, coming up with a plan, using reason and fortitude to execute that plan, and it went well. Didn't ambush me. I mean, it ambushed me kind of. Well, I knew it was coming. I know it's coming every time I drive now. The other thing that was good was that I've used my hashtag maturity and hashtag reason to deny myself the desire to go on an adventure, a driving adventure, until I get my Japanese driver's license, because it outweighs the risk. I'm still driving, but I'm going to not drive unless I absolutely have to. So again, those of you who are contributing to my various methodologies by which support comes through, I apologize that I'm not servicing that support with adventures, but I'm doing so in order to reduce the risk. As soon as I get my license, that should change. Although, let's go on to the second thing that's come up. If you follow these videos or you are aware of my activities online, you know I'm prolific in my content creation, and you'll notice a lot of videos popping up and social media posts showing me selling antiques. That's because my antique business, I've been focusing a lot on that. It was kind of a slow start. I've been here 6 months, slow start, tentative start, not a lot of engagement initially, to be expected, right? Low effort in, low expectation. But now that I've kind of worked through the workflow, I've figured out which venues I want to operate on. I've come up with tools that help me. Things are going well. The business is going. I'm busy. My little antique business is off to a great start. It's yesterday. I was thinking about how it's almost like, because I closed the antique store here in Japan in 2008, 17 years ago. And after 5 years of operation, and it took me 5 years, and I was doing well until the global financial crisis came and, you know, basically wiped out my business. I was doing well. I had a lot of stuff figured out. I had all the processes figured out. I knew how to run the business. I had made a lot of mistakes. I spent a lot of money, burned through a lot of money, figuring out processes that worked. And I had lost all interest in antiques as a result, because 5 years of doing this full time on the hamster wheel, it was my career at that point, on the hamster wheel of having to churn out money to support my family. As a result, I lost all interest in antiques because it became a job. But I figured out how to do it well. I mean, and it was a successful job. Now, 17 years later, and I thought I would never want to do antiques again because I was so burnt out from it. 17 years later, all the burnout is gone. All the love is back. I really enjoy it. And what's more, my wife and her sister, Yoko, they enjoy it too. And it's become the primary thing that we three do as, you know, in our late 50s. Yoko's in her mid 50s. Yumiko and I are now in our 60s as older people. We enjoy going out on the weekends to antique shows. We find there's a circuit of antique festivals and fairs, and we go to the flea market, and we make a life of it. And we have this house that we bought that's an older house that we're populating with antiques, and I'm also in the market for another house. This is the first time I've ever said this. I'm in the market for a country house too, where we will use as a showcase for antiques. So it's really become a centerpiece of our lives. So starting up the business slowly over the last 6 months, and then suddenly kicking it off in the last 6 weeks. What's been surprising is that, here's the thing, I threaded the needle. It was like, before when I was an antique dealer, it was like one of those topiary mazes that people walk through the foliage, you know, to get somewhere. And if you can, you know, like in a medieval garden, right? And you're like, you covered a lot of dead ends and finally figured out how to get through. I've already figured out how to get through the topiary garden of starting an antique business in Japan, because I did it once before. I spent a lot of money figuring all that stuff out. I wasted a lot of time. I know how to get through that topiary garden. And I got through it in 6 weeks. It took me 5 years. Last time, I got through in 6 weeks. Because this time I didn't have to make the mistakes again. I remembered. I simply had to set up the infrastructure and apparatus for the antique business, which isn't easy. I mean, there's a lot involved in it, and a lot of figuring things out. A lot of it, the majority of it, is up here in my head. It's stuff that can't be picked up easily in a book. It comes of living it. It's a cachet of knowledge, dare I say, wisdom, of how to run an antique business in Japan that I earned, and that I still have. So the business is up. It's doing good. And what's more, there's no stress, because being retired, I no longer have to work for a living. I can operate the business without the necessity of selling anything, which makes things very interesting, because I can list what I like, which is what I originally set out to do, but I couldn't make money selling what I liked because there weren't enough people to buy the stuff that I liked. So instead, what I had to do in the past, when I was doing this full time, was I had to sell stuff that other people liked, which didn't interest me, which is one of the reasons I wound up not enjoying the business after a while. But now I'm not shackled by the need to sell anything, so I can source, find, and list the things that I like, which there's a small minority of people out there that like it too. And the other thing I can do is that I can price the items at their real value. Previously, I would have to buy items, and because I needed to churn, I needed to sell, I would have to price them at a very competitive, dare I say, stupidly competitive. And it wasn't even competitive, it was stupid. Because the reason it was stupid for me. I was buying items, one-of-a-kind interesting items previously when I was an antique dealer, listing them for a price that I had to list them at because I had to sell them to keep the income coming, to pay our rent, to pay my daughter's tuition. We were sending her to a private school at that time, to pay all the incidentals, all the stuff, right? So I would let all these, and that was another thing that broke my interest in antiques, was seeing these things go, making barely enough money. Here, I think the security guard is active. For those of you that are just joining, I'm at the bus stop of a parking lot of an art museum in the mountains of Japan behind my house. The place that we bought our house in Japan is kind of a locus of culture here in Shizuoka. It's where we have the art museum, the prefectural art museum. There's a permanent Rodin wing there. We have the prefectural library, the prefectural university, and the prefectural arts park. And here comes the security guard right there. So, yeah, he's coming, I think, to open up the thing. So I'll be quiet for a second and say hello to him. おはようございます。おはようございます。今日いいお天気ね。今日はね、いい天気ですね。そう、すごいですね。いいですか、ちょっとここ座っていいですか。すみません。ありがとうございます。Just a little small talk. So I just clearing it with him that it's okay if I sit here. He said, "Take my time." That was nice of him. So he's going to go and he's going to unbarrier the thing there. I have to keep track of the time because I need to head back down the mountain and join my neighbors. I'll talk about that in a second for radio exercise. So anyway, I think I've said enough about the antique thing. It has come back strong. It's occupying a huge amount of time. And here's the thing. Here's the really interesting thing. It's filled the gap, that retirement, the emptiness that, yeah, that's the right word for it, that came about when I retired. Now, some people might get through that emptiness. It's the emptiness that comes when you, after spending your whole adult life working hard at career, making money, supporting the family, when that suddenly comes to an end, it's a vacuum that's fun for a couple of weeks, but then becomes a vacuum. It becomes a hole that we can fall into, at least that I can fall into. And some people seem to get through that through, social connections, volunteer activities, finding things to do, watching TV, drinking. I don't know. People seem to do it. I'm still finding my way through. I'm lately experimenting with the idea of substituting that very thing with the thing that it was, which is work. So having my antique business that I enjoy, running it in earnest, which I enjoy, and not having the weight of needing to make money at it, seems like a winning combo. It touches all the bases. It's something that I like. It's something that I share with my wife and her sister. It's something that I can do here, and it fills the days. And it gives me that same sense of good feeling that I had, even though I hated my job. I felt good at the end of every day when I did a good job, when I did a good day's work. So that's arrived. Putting a pin in it. I can do this as much or as little as I want. Now as I often do, I tend to overdo things. So I'm ramping up. I shared like 6 listings yesterday. I listed 6 items, which is way overkill. I shouldn't do more than 2. I'll find my balance. I know myself. That's how I operate. I do everything to excess, and then I balance it out. All right, so that was yesterday. Did well with the driving. Kept my balance, my cool. Not cool isn't the right word. Kept my balance. Arigatou gozaimasu. I kept my balance. Is what it is. That was the yield in the end, was my balance. And I'm really experimenting with this, the business again. So the security guard has opened up the gate. Here, I'll turn the camera on and show you. He's opened the gate there so that people can come in. The bus stop is armed. He's over there going down to his station. and my day continues. So, the creed. My creed consists of 8 objectives: to be always ready to die, to make good and effective use of my time, to develop and maintain good and sound life principles, to cultivate good emotional reactions, to perform good actions relative to my creed, to do just one thing at a time, and do the thing slowly and deliberately and carefully, and to keep my balance. Okay, as for today, it's a Thursday, and my plan for today is to, after I get back to the house, I'm going to, I have all 6 items that I listed yesterday, well, 5 of them. It's complicated. The listing process is pretty dang complicated because I list the items on, excuse me, 3 venues: my fourth wall store, on eBay, and my YouTube store. Turns out all of those, the YouTube store sources back to the fourth wall store. eBay is its own thing. I do eBay to leverage a market that doesn't know me. I do fourth wall and YouTube to leverage a market that does know me. So it's a complicated setup. And then I use social media to spread the word about each item. But the interesting thing about fourth wall is that fourth wall automatically feeds into my YouTube store. When I list the item in fourth wall, but it takes 12 to 24 hours for the items to appear over on the YouTube store. So although I've created all the videos for these items on YouTube, because the video is the way to support it, the way to promote the item, leveraging my YouTube-ness, my persona as a YouTuber, I can list the items, and then because it's listed on my YouTube store, I can hang the item below the video for the item. So if I'm, like I listed yesterday, a beautiful little Kokeshi doll that I found at an antique store that is shaped like a Buddhist priest, which I'd never seen. All Kokeshi are typically they're shaped like young girls, or classical figures of history, Shichi Fukujin, luck gods, or something like that. Once in a while a tanuki, but Buddhist priest with a shaved head and everything. So I found that. I knew I had to have that, so I got that. I listed it yesterday on fourth wall, and then I created the video for it on YouTube, and then I keep the video on YouTube in an unlisted state until the listing from fourth wall propagates out to YouTube and becomes available in my store. Then I can grab it, hang it below the video, make the video go live, and if someone wants to buy it, the item is right below them. See, it's kind of like QVC. Remember the old online shopping channel? It's kind of like that. By the way, that Kokeshi already sold, so it didn't last. It was a very special item. It didn't even last 12 hours, and it sold. So that was good. So I'm going to work more on that. So I was talking about what I'm going to do today. I have 5 of the 6 items are, and the one that was not the 6 is the Kokeshi that sold. 5 of them still need to be hung off the bottom of their listings. They haven't come through yet. I'll do that. Then I'll work on some more listings, but not 6. I'm gonna work on 2. I have a big order, had a big sale overnight, and I'm gonna have to, that Kokeshi along with some other things, I'll have to fulfill that order. I'm gonna go to my tea supplier because all the tea sold out that I bought. I bought the tea this week, the Shinsha, and it's all sold out now. So I need to go to the tea supplier and get more tea. You can see what basically my day is going to be. It's going to be all about busyness. I'm going to be working basically. Yeah, but I also want to spend some time, more time reading. So really enjoying sitting on my balcony doing that. The garden is calling me. I know it's going to happen. I mean, I really should spend some time in the morning in the garden. I really should. But I got work. The work comes before the garden. All right, let's go ahead and read comments. There's Tim. Good morning, Tim. Kurt, do you find, Kurt, as you get older that certain tasks can phase you now, but you wouldn't think twice about 10 years ago? I'm finding this a little more. The test can phase you. By phase you, do you mean like bother me or trouble me or something like that? If that's what you mean, that's really interesting that you say that, because there wasn't anything in particular that happened, but there was something that came up yesterday that sent me back to work all of a sudden. Finally found myself back in my old job, and I realized for a moment, oh, I couldn't do this. I couldn't do this now. It's only been 6 months. I've been too far gone. I couldn't. The stress would be too much for me now. I couldn't take it anymore. If that's what you mean. Um, and definitely finding that I'm losing my capability. If I'm ever gonna get back into the project management field, I better do it within the next 6 months, because after a year I won't be able to do it anymore. Tim goes on, I caught a video of yours from 2010 on one of your trips with Yumiko and Emily, and your driving seemed fine, like not a second thought. My driving was great until I came to Japan. I had no trouble driving in the United States, other than the fact that I was falling asleep sometimes. But that wasn't my driving ability. That was my physiology. That was something going on biologically with me. But it was coming to Japan, and it doesn't seem to be getting better. And it doesn't seem to have happened to my wife. My wife drives fine. I don't know what it is. It's me. Gerald, I maybe it's just getting old. I don't know. Maybe it'll get better with time. And this didn't happen when I moved to Japan in 2003. I drove just like fine. It took me like 6 hours to adjust to driving in Japan. Gerald says, "Good morning, Kurt. Hope your day goes well, my friend, driving home from work." Thank you, Gerald. I appreciate that. Hope you have a safe and pleasant drive. Michelle, hello, Kurt and everyone. I hope you all have a great day and night. Thank you so much. And that's very considerate of you to thinking about where everyone might be. Tim goes on, great thing with the antiques is you can share it with the rest of the family, trips out to the markets, etc. Yeah, that's what, and frankly, that was the thing that I don't know if you caught the part that I said earlier about Yumiko and I are thinking about getting a house in the countryside. Like, because we could, whoops, sorry for jerking it around. We didn't, and it's not like we're loaded, like we can buy 2 houses. Houses are cheap, right? So part of what got me thinking that was I was out at the village of the Long Bear last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, talking to that old man, and there were so many Aki out there. And I was asking him about, would it be possible for someone like me to buy a house in the village? And he's like, sure. And then he went on to really quickly added, and it'd be really cheap. And I was like, wow, well, maybe it's still within reason that Yumiko and I could have our cake and eat it too, because we got the city house where we need to live as we get older. Maybe we could buy a country place, an old komika, where we don't really care about earthquake readiness. We don't really care. We don't have to live there. We'll just go out there on the weekends. It'll become a repository for our antiques, right? We buy things, and then we populate the house in the countryside with all the antiques. Hey, maybe it'll come full of antiques. Vivian, hi Vivian. Really lovely doll. Oh, you know the one, the little Kokeshi. Isn't that a lovely doll? It sold right away. So, and I'm not surprised. I actually saw it. Actually, I went back and got it. I saw it one week, and it was so nice, that little Kokeshi. But I had already bought a number of items that day, so I didn't get it. And then it was not a week later. It was like a month later. I went back, and it was still there. I walked over to Yumiko and I said, the Buddhist priest Kokeshi is still here. It's coming home with me. And do you see how this is the thing? It's so nice. That doll is so nice that I wouldn't care if anybody didn't buy it, because I love it. And I put it, and like before when I was an antique dealer, I would take all the items and I would put them in boxes and stash them away and never look at them. The items that I'm buying now and adding to the store are the items that I want to display around the house. The home becomes the repository of all of these things. So I get to enjoy looking at that little Kokeshi until I can then lovingly put it into a box and send it to someone else who will enjoy it. It's a far more fulfilling business model than just trying to churn things out to make a buck, right? Tim, so I guess that's one thing to consider, right, in this retirement paradigm, is being able to leverage the best of what we are good at towards ends that we enjoy. Tim says, please you out, trouble you, I guess. Yeah. I phase you out, trouble you, not please you out. I'm sorry, I'm misreading. Bad eyes. One more thing that's going. I'm getting cataract surgery in September, I think it is. Yes, I'll be able to see again. Um, yeah, I mentioned. So yeah, I mean, you were just clarifying because I wasn't sure what you mean. Um, yeah, my tolerance for I don't cuss a lot, but for bullshit is very low now. I guess that's another consequence of retirement, right? The bullshit tolerance. But there's not a lot in my life that I have a very, hmm, kind of like, I guess it's the stoic that I'm trying to develop inside myself that sees the bullshit going on around me as if it's beyond my reach, if it's a limit, if I can't affect it, if I can't do anything about it, then I try not to let it bother me. But I know what you mean, Tim. And yes, it's reduced. Boy, you put me back in the, what is it, in one of the meetings that I would have had on a Thursday as a project manager. I don't know if I could tolerate that anymore. Gerald says, when you mention being ready to die, you want to practically ready to die. That's also the emotional side to that outside ourselves. I'm afraid I don't understand what that means. Maybe I read it wrong. When you mention being ready to die, you might want to practically ready to die. There's also the emotional side to that, outside ourselves. Oh, you're talking about, I'm referring to being practically ready to die, the emotional side. So what I used to do, Gerald, I used to do a part of this, let this motorcycle go by. That's the Nihon Daira. It's a parkway that goes along. So you bring up an interesting point, Gerald. I used to attempt to address that, and I stopped doing it because it freaked people friggin' out. I've been doing this daily exercise since 2018. There was a time when I was trying to address the emotional side of being ready to die, and the way that I did that was during this exercise. I would pick a circumstance, a case that an actual case in point of death, not just for myself, but for my family members. To go ahead and give you a really extreme one. I would talk about the 3 points of being ready, have affairs in order, relationship sound, and life's work complete. And then I would propose to myself a scenario, for example, that my daughter dies in a traffic accident. And today, the circumstance might happen that Emily might, and this is beyond the scope of just me, but the people around me, right? Myself and others. I would come up, and I'm not going to go into any more details than that, but I was pretty graphic. I would come up with a case study, and I would paint a picture of myself or someone else dying today. And what I was trying to do, Gerald, was prepare myself for not just the fact of potential death for myself or others, but what it would be like to paint that picture. And it was a very powerful exercise because I would be overwhelmed with emotion as I would come up with horrible. I mean, because I had to be diverse, right? Because there's all kinds of ways to die. I would come up with all kinds of horrible ways that myself or my family members could die. Um, I stopped doing it because there was this horrible, I mean, not horrible, it was quite reasonable actually, strong feedback from viewers watching my videos because people get upset with me the fact that I just talk about dying. I mean, really, really upset. I get cards and letters from people who are always, who are talking. I mean, it really unsettles people. That's why I have the disclaimer at the start of the video. I'm going to talk about my death and my own preparations to be ready to die because it upsets so many people. You don't see it in the comments. They send me email. It really makes people upset. It makes people so upset when the few times that I actually meet people in person, it's the number one thing that comes up. Once we've spent an afternoon together, people invariably bring up the comment about, my frequent references to death. So Gerald, that was the way I tried to do it in the past, by case studies, coming up with examples, and it worked. It was like getting slapped in the face every morning, or getting, beat up every morning. Um, self-inflicted beat-upness. I don't do that anymore. But I get what you mean, and I also understand that that's something that can ambush me. I mean, I say that I'm ready to die, but when I say that I'm ready to die, I mean it on a practical sense. I don't know what's going to happen if it really comes down. I could devolve into a bleeding mess, right? I mean, I don't. I'm only going to be tested when the moment comes. What's of and to that end, and as long as we're talking deep end of the pool right now, to that end, what's really tough is, and I rarely talk about it, but is my plans for suicide, because my plan is, if I'm faced with um, a, a a bad disease that's going to take me out for sure, like stage 4 cancer of some sort. It's going to be a painful, horrible end, expensive end. Rather than suffer myself and my family to go through all of that, I will, um, I will just take my own life, and I'll do it. And I already have it all planned out. I'll do it in a way that that there won't be a mess for anybody to clean up. Now, I really think I can do it. I really do. But what's it going to be like when the rubber of that particular vehicle really hits the road? Will I be able to pull it off? The main impediment to that will be my family. The thing that will prevent me from doing that will be my wife, mainly. I've had some hesitant talks with Emily about this, our daughter. Can't quite gauge her just yet. But if either my wife or my daughter, would be horrified, and I think Yumiko, my wife, would be horrified. If they would be horrified by my plan, then I won't do it. Then I'll just go out whatever way to go out, right? Sit in a hospital bed, doped up on medication, with the hospital bills racking up until I'm gone. I'll do that. That's fine. That's fine if it gives more comfort to my family. But if Yumiko goes first, and if Emily is all right with it, and I will have that conversation with her, if Yumiko goes first and I still have my faculties about me, and I'm capable of taking my own life, then I will have that serious talk with Emily, and I'll say, listen, I don't want to go out. This is how I want to go out, and if she's cool with that, then I'll at least give myself the green light, whether I can do it or not. See, so all of this is by way of responding to your comment, Gerald, about emotional side, right? I mean, it's one thing to have a plan, but what did they say? What did Mike Tyson say? To say, everybody's got a plan if they get punched in the nose, right? Mm-hmm. Let's see. Next one, Okayama Ray. Hey, Okayama Ray. I always end up joining these as the sessions are ending. Yeah, I'm kind of winding it down. Viviana. I don't know why I can't read that, and I keep saying Valerina. I admire the little antique gems and like that you always provide interesting information and context of the piece. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hello, softypapa. I hope you are well. Marmite. It's good to see you, Marmite. Marmite, my take is that remembering mortality is one day this life will end. Let each moment be lived with purpose, as if our final summons could come at any time. Gerald says, the important thing to remember, if your wife passes, you are your daughter's link to her, still in her life, and vice versa. If you pass, hold on, let me read that again. Important thing to remember, if your wife passes, you are your daughter's link to her, and still in her life, and vice versa. If you pass first, yeah, that's true. That's why I wouldn't do it if Emily protests. Like, okay, let's say Yumiko dies first. If that happens, and then after a suitable amount of time, I'll broach the subject with Emily. Say, hey, mom's gone. Probably I'm next. I said, I don't want to take my life. I like being alive. I'm enjoying this. This is fun. But if circumstances get set up in such a way that it's not going to be very good, and I'm going to definitely die, then I would like to go out on my own terms. What do you think about that, Emily? And if Emily says, hell no, you got to stay around. You got to stay around to the bitter end. No further conversation. No argument. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm not going to say, okay. Pretend we have never had this conversation. That's it. But if Emily says, oh yeah, Kurt, or Dad, oh yeah, Dad, yeah, I totally understand. You know, you do you. Then I'll tell her that one day, if the diagnosis comes that that's the case, then I'm going to leave you a note. I will, I'll make sure that, if the dogs are still around, there probably won't be. Make sure the dogs are taken care of. And then I'll leave you a note, and that'll be it. You'll never see me again. And that will be it. But I'll only do that if my daughter, can abide that. Okay, Doo Army. My mother has a similar view, not quite thought out, but she has thrown out the idea just in case in the far future some major disease would bite. Love the talk surrounding mortality. Always appreciate. That was Doo Army. Yeah. Sounds like your mother is someone I could relate to. I think there's a lot more of us out there who have these thoughts than let on. It's just such a taboo subject. I mean, everybody seems to think you're supposed to cling to life with every scrap, like it's a finger. No, I mean, I don't mind. I mean, I don't believe in afterlife. Just, it's not, the afterlife's not going to hurt me. Just be oblivion forever. I'm not afraid of oblivion, I don't think. Kyle Blaha says, love the talks around immortality. We always appreciate the introspective and inquisitive thoughts conversation. Thank you. And then Marlady says, if I'm set for the end, then I'll hire a Ferrari and go full speed off the nearest beautiful cliff. Interesting. All right, everybody, I better sign off. The neighborhood boss, I'm kind of a boss, came by the other day and told my wife, we got some things for you to do in the community, which Yumiko was actually excited to do. And me, come join us for a morning radio exercise with all the retired people at 6:30 in the morning, which I got to go do right now. So I'm going to do that. It's a good thing. Wait for me to get involved. Michelle says, having watched my mother pass from cancer, no thank you. My choice, my control. Right, Michelle? I mean, I think there's a lot of us out there, but we don't talk about it because it's such a hush-hush thing. Have fun with community. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. I better race and get down there and do my Thanks for joining me. It was a long one. Be safe, but not too safe. Take care.